graduated from Virginia Tech in 1999. I started at Gensler right away, and it's been my first job and only job at Gensler, 24 years now. And, when I started at Gensler, like everybody who's young and up and coming, we all kind of aspire to do design. We all want to do anything that we can to advance our careers. I just happened to be sitting next to someone who had joined Gensler about 6 months before I did, who was hired to build an aviation practice. And so I'm starting. I worked on some small other projects within Gensler, a community center and some office building work. And one day I came in and there was a lot of excitement around my desk. And we had just won a very small 23,000 square foot new terminal expansion at Cleveland Hopkins International. And Bill Hooper, who was the guy who was brought in to build an aviation practice, looked at me and said, "Do you have any interest in working on an airport project?" So what are you going to say? You're, 6 months out of school and you're going to do anything. So I said, sure, I'd love to. Started working on it. Within 6 weeks after starting, the project architect and it was a very small team. There were only 4 of us, Bill, a project manager, a project architect, and myself. And I was going to do, as when you're young, you kind of do all the drawings and a little bit of everything. Well, the project architect resigned to go take a job somewhere else. And then I looked at Bill and said, okay, well, who's going to come in to replace Rob? He said, you know more about this project than anybody at this point. You're just going to do it. And so it was kind of a sink or swim moment of you're 23, 24 years old, right out of school, and your mentor is trusting you to do these things. And he was a great safety net to be able to coach me through kind of what it took. After that, we then were successful in winning a project at Chicago O'Hare. And I remember at that point, we'd only done the project in Cleveland and very small, but O'Hare was going to be 1 million square feet of new terminal. So again, I asked Bill, I said, are we bringing in a team from the West Coast? Because at that point, the West Coast within Gensler had done all the aviation work. And he said, no, we got this. He said, you're going to lead this project. So it was a little daunting.
What office were you in at this point?
I was in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So, and Washington, D.C. has always been one of Gensler's hubs for aviation. We don't do aviation out of every office, so it's kind of pick and choose. So I had the opportunity after that to move to Chicago to work on the project. Came back to DC after that project. That project, unfortunately, was canceled because of 9/11. Came back to DC for a little bit, and then we won JetBlue out of JFK. So I moved to New York to work on that project, then moved to London with another opportunity, came back to DC, and then moved to Pittsburgh when we won the airport project locally here. And the rest is, as they say, is all written.
Check out the full discussion from this bite of advice here. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more mentorDINO content.